Okay, so first thing is get myself situated here. First thing is I want you to open up the chat because you don't have to talk on like on camera. Like you don't have to talk in the Zoom today. You don't have to put your cameras on. You can chill out, listen in, interact as you want. But there will be some points that I'll ask you questions or for some feedback or to see if you relate. And at that point, I'll tell you to put a 1 in the chat if you relate or whatever the prompt is. Okay. So that's all I ask. So, okay. We're done with the ADHD, sabotaging PCOS and Hashimoto's, right? Who here, drop a 1 in the chat if you are really over it. And if you've had ADHD for a while, or help, share with us. Maybe you're new, whatever the case may be, and you're fed up. You feel like it stops you from being consistent. It stops you from friggin' making choices that you feel proud of. Whatever the case may be, we're going to get into it today. But 1 in the chat if you relate and you're here for that reason. Yeah, sucks, right? Well, I think that there is a lot of information out there about how to manage your PCOS, how to manage your Hashimoto's, your chronic illness. But there isn't a whole lot, or at least what I've found, that shows you how to manage those things specifically if you're a neurodivergent or you have ADHD. And I don't know about you guys, but I received my diagnosis late in life. I'll get more into that, my whole story, my whole spiel here. But I think that it's not about the fact that any of us are necessarily dysfunctional as a result. We're all just on survival mode every day, trying to do the best we can, often putting ourselves last, and I think that we have to have some kind of a strategy that works with our brains to make any kind of lasting change. So let's get into it. Okay. First thing, where are you watching from? We got to do a few icebreakers. I haven't done an open public one of these in a while. So tell me in the chat, where are you tuning in from? Don't be shy. We got Texas, Portland, Oregon. We got Dallas, another Texas, Tucson, Seattle. Okay, so from all over. And some of you guys will be listening to this on the recording. But I think that it's important that we discuss these things for a few reasons. I wrote here a couple of things that really struck me when I was plotting out the notes for this, just things that really pulled on my heartstrings as someone who has experienced this for most of their life, right? I've worked with people just like you guys, right? You're tired of never feeling well. You're tired of not knowing how to consistently friggin' feed yourself. Tired of searching for dopamine in food at the wrong times. And then afraid to eat, not wanting to eat, disgusted by eating, forgetting to eat at all of the quote unquote right times. Right? So I think we need to break the cycle, right? And if you don't fix the problem now, you're just going to end up at a later stage in life with the same issue, having tried a million different things, having shiny object syndrome. Maybe something works for a little while and then it doesn't. Maybe you never even start because you don't know where to begin, right? That was definitely me. But I think the long and short of it is, what is at stake for you guys? Tell me in the chat if you don't get out of this cycle of not being able to make choices for yourself that you feel consistent with due to ADHD. What's at stake potentially? What could get worse? Tell me in the chat if you're willing to share. For me, I think my A1C, I've had diabetes since I was a little kid. And for me, my A1C was 16. The normal is in the low 5s, and I was a 16. Now, that might not mean something crazy to you guys if you don't have experience with an A1C or with diabetes or anything like that. But that meant that if I stayed on the path I was on, that I potentially could have had some issues with my eyesight, or I could have lost my vision. It's common for diabetics. I could have lost limbs. Like, I'm not even being dramatic. Diabetes, I always wish the type 1 was named something different, but at the end of the day, whether it takes you quickly with type 1 or it takes you slowly with type 2, it really takes your life away from you, right? So I realized that, I just lost my train of thought and I lost my place in my notes. Oh, what's at stake? I'm dealing with post-pregnancy brain and allergy brain. So bear with me, holy Benadryl. But what's at stake for me at that time was if I stayed on that path, I didn't think I was ever going to have a kid. I didn't ever think that I was going to have a functional relationship. I didn't think I was going to have a career, and that's not to mean, that doesn't mean I haven't been working my ass off as a chronic workaholic since I was 15 and I could get a working permit, right? That doesn't mean I was lazy and sitting around and not caring about changing. All I did was work at trying to change and trying to get some kind of consistency in my life. So if I stayed on the track I was on, I was doomed to just continue to try to make things better and fail and end up getting sicker and sicker as life went on. So for me personally, for a long time, PCOS and Hashimoto's, you go to a doctor, right? And you're telling them things like, I'm exhausted, I'm gaining weight, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help myself. I don't feel well. You're talking about the chronic pain, all the things that come with it. Crazy ass period, no period for months, and then bleeding through pants when you're not supposed to. You go to them and what's their answer? Eat less, move more. Here's this medication that often gives you the runs or doesn't even help, right? Sometimes you get sympathy, but a lot of times you get looked at like it must be something you're doing wrong. And when you have ADHD, I think it's important to talk on that because it's like all we feel is that we're doing something wrong. That's already how we're built. We're already worried of messing up all the time. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can relate with that. We try so hard to be diligent at things and feel like, maybe if we slip up a little, we're going to screw up. Or maybe you already feel like you're screwing up all the time. That's how we're built, right? I was told that, because every doctor I went to, weight was always the problem. What became the solution to everything? If I just lost weight, if I got smaller, if I got skinnier, not to mention, that's without the help of society, right? Because we live in a society that tells us that we should already aspire to be a certain size. So you go to the doctor and he's telling you, and she's telling you that this is how you feel better if you lose weight. It becomes your only goal. But we so often forget it's one of the symptoms. I'm gaining weight. I don't know what to do about it. Okay, well, lose weight. Weight gain is a symptom of the illness. Okay, cool. Well, how do I fix it? Well, you got to lose weight. How in the hell? How does that make any sense? And that's without ADHD. So, I think when you're putting all of your energy, like at least I was, into trying to fix the problem, right? The second that you have too many plates that you're juggling, right? And maybe something happens in life or something, you're needed in some new area, or you have some kind of stressful thing happen, like it tends to happen in life. You can't really maintain throwing all your energy at something that you don't even know how to fix when you have to be so many other places at once. When your mental energy has to go to other people all the time, to getting your bills paid, to keeping the roof over your head. Where is there room for this mystical, magical balancing act of my hormones that a doctor can't give me any more advice than eat less and move more? It's not going to happen. This is where having a strategy, which you're going to hear me talk about a lot. Strategy is really important because having a strategy that suits you and your brain is the way to do it. There is not one way to accomplish anything. There are infinite ways to accomplish things. And there's nothing wrong with needing to accomplish them your way if that's different than a way you might have been taught, right? So I got to the point where after trying diet after diet and just, maybe I'll add this supplement. Maybe I'll, at one point I had one of those little granny pill organizers, just full of supplements. This helps that. This helps that. I had to watch out because there were contradictions with other things. And there was it was just, pardon my language, I'm from New Jersey. So it was a mind fuck every day. It was a complete mind fuck of these supplements that I would start taking, get all organized, take them for a week, and then I'd forget. And then that was it. All hell broke loose. No more vitamins for me. right? Okay, this one diet, I'm going to throw my all at it, really into it for a little bit. Fall off in one way, it all falls apart. It all falls to the wayside. And I divert back to this like standard issue flying by the seat of my pants. But I had to get skinny, right? You know, that was the goal. That was gonna fix it all. I would be healthy if I could just be skinny. So I just kept on this merry-go-round, and then finally, that was it. I had enough. I had enough. You know, I don't remember, I have to be honest with you. It wasn't like I had a million moments that I really, really wanted to change things, but there wasn't really like one aha moment that was like, that's what turned the page for me. You know, like that's what made me get my life in order. I think it was just a buildup. And I decided that I wasn't going to try to have the transformation side of things anymore. Like that, I think just having so much pressure on myself because like I wanted to lose weight quickly. I wanted to, get my hormones in order. I wanted everything to be where it needed to be with my PCOS and Hashimoto's yesterday. I was trying to do something that was like a super big change, right? A big lifestyle shift, some transformation. If it gave me dopamine, and if you're with ADHD, tell me if you relate, put a one in the chat. You love a challenge. You love the idea of putting your all into things, I should say. The idea of like this extreme devotion, like I am a pro at this. I do this every day. Like the idea of a transformation was like so addictive because it felt like, okay, if I just really put myself to work, I'm going to get what I want. You know, we are good problem solvers. We get overwhelmed, but we like a challenge, right? If that wasn't the case, you wouldn't be watching this on a Sunday night, right? You wouldn't be trying to get better. You'd just be like, okay with everything. So I really realized that that was screwing me over because it's not sustainable. And there was nothing wrong. It wasn't because there's something wrong with me that wasn't sustainable. What was wrong with me was trying the same thing dressed up in another outfit time and time and time and time again, which was the big transformation. You know, for me to get everything in order and get it into check, it had to not be overwhelming. It had to be something that I could do with just living because my attention had to go elsewhere. And that is how I started to think, okay, I'm not going to be into being skinny anymore because the freaking jig is up. I've never been the skinny girl in class. That's not me. I definitely have clients who have had different weight fluctuations. I have clients who might not even relate to this weight talk at all, of course, and just people, not just clients, people hearing this. I'm used to doing these privately. But I said, if I have to live in this body forever, I can either spend my days being miserable, trying to change it, or I can spend my days trying to make it feel better. It is what it is. It looks how it looks. I'm going to figure out a way to not feel like a disaster every single day. I don't know where my straw was. I'm going to try my best to feel well every day, to be proud of myself, to not beat the shit out of myself in my own head every day. Like those became my goals. And you know what's weird? Those felt more tangible than losing weight, right? At that point, some might say, well, I don't want to settle for that. That's just horseshit. That's just what keeps the diet industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry that's a revolving door, is that thought. So I was like, okay, how do I make it easy? Well, from now on, when I have a struggle I face, instead of being like, damn it, why are you like this? Why do you drop the ball? All the negative shit that we tell ourselves with ADHD, right? Instead of just beating my own head in like that, I'm going to stop and I'm going to evaluate the struggle that I'm having. And then I'm going to try to make a plan for that, a backup plan, a hack. I'm going to try to make it as easy. I'm not going to hate myself for being lazy anymore. I'm going to embrace the fact that my brain operates in certain ways. It's proficient as hell at certain things and not so proficient at things. And instead of hating that sometimes I don't get the choice on which is which, I'm going to try to figure out how to do what I got to do in the easiest way and most natural to me way as possible. That's the aha moment, I guess, is when I finally was like, I'm done. We're done. We're done with the ADHD sabotaging the hormones. So, okay, tell me in the chat. Let me see. Someone sent me a message. Tell me in the chat what resonates with you. If anyone is feeling brave enough to share here, I'm not going to read your name out for the sake of the recording. Or you can send it to me anonymously by clicking to send to just me. But what's standing out to you? What are you connecting with? What are your thoughts as you're hearing this? I'm literally taking all my supplements in my pill counter right now. And listen, that's not to say that I don't believe in like taking vitamins, or if you really, like are there no supplements that are great? Of course not, and then, I took them, I was taking CoQ10 when I was trying to conceive, I was taking different supplements at different times. This is not an anti-supplement house by any means, but this shit was ridiculous. I didn't need 14 different horse pills that were like way too expensive in freaking glass jars every day. Like who's living like that? Freaking astronauts don't take that many supplements. So wanting to focus on feeling better, not just focusing on weight loss. Yeah, I mean, isn't it exhausting? It doesn't even work, And that's what I thought. I'm like, it doesn't even work. I'm tired of being disappointed, and I'm gonna say this. I still lost about 80 pounds. I think it was more at some points, with a fluctuation about 5 to 10 pounds over probably a decade. But I lost 80 pounds not trying to lose weight, like purposely focusing on my health and self-acceptance. So that doesn't mean that it's like, oh, like throwing my hands in the air. That just means that, like, if you're working on your health, like I said, weight is a symptom. So if you attack the thing that's causing the symptoms, the weight will change. And not for nothing, not everyone's built to be someone that you would see, I can't even say on a magazine cover that's like, I'm aging myself. Like, you're never gonna look like, I don't know, like Hailey Bieber, okay? Not everyone's built like that. My trip to Greece, like my many trips to Greece, but when I was younger, a trip to Greece particularly stood out to me, that I was watching people, like older women who were in their like freaking 80s or older. I don't even know. Like the longevity over there is crazy, right? And they were, first of all, they were wearing bikinis to the beach, which was amazing. And second of all, these yayas could run circles around me. Like they were walking up hills back and forth to go to the freaking store to buy food. They were cleaning their entire property. They were gardening outside. They were so active and healthy. And guess what? None of them were thin. None of them were thin. We're all stocky ass ladies, right? So it made me start to think, like, wait a second. What is the scam that I have been sold? And that's where it all began, is like, what are we striving for here? What do you want to be, a size 0 on a couch? You can't even do shit. You're laid up all day. Not me. Who's going to see you? But anyway, let me catch up here in my notes. Okay, so we're going to do a Q&A at the end. Oh, I was supposed to tell y'all who the hell I am. Okay. Again, I'm not used to doing these publicly. I do these more privately for my clients. But hello, my name is Michelle Amato. But I wrote this out so official on here. I have had, unknowingly for most of my life, ADHD, obviously, and a touch of the TISM, which now is referred to as ADHD. Man, I wish that term existed for a lot longer than it has, because I had never related to something more, obviously, and OCD. So I went my whole life not knowing. That's why I was weird. I asked my parents all the time. I'm like, nothing stood out. Like, nothing's like, oh, yeah, you know, the fact that I was reading really early, the fact that my teachers were intervening, like she's testing great, but there's something, there's some spice in there, there's some extra ingredients. And my parents like, there's nothing wrong with our child in the early 90s, So that just got kind of buried, like it often does with us, So it wasn't actually until my early 20s for ADHD and OCD, and 30 for the little touch of TISM right? So I went most of my life just trying to freaking hack it and get by. Again, like I said earlier, it wasn't like I was completely like dysfunctional. It was that the level of stress I lived with to perform like the quote unquote normal person I thought I had to be was just almost unbearable at that point. And if I hadn't had an intervention in my early 20s, like I don't know how I would have gotten through my 30s if I didn't at least know that bit. And I know plenty of people who get diagnosed later than that. So anyway, long story short, women tend to get diagnosed later in life. So since I was about 7, I had type 1 diabetes, which is the autoimmune form of diabetes. If you aren't familiar, there's type 1, type 2, and then now there's one that's called LADA, or you might see it as type 2.5. It's really kind of alarming that different types of diabetes and it becoming more common for people to have different types of diabetes has been getting worse as time has gone on. Like when I was diagnosed, it was extremely rare. It really only affected young children. And now people can be diagnosed with type 1. I mean, I've had clients who are in their 40s who are diagnosed with type 1, which was previously, like I said, unheard of. Type 1.5, where it kind of straddles the line, that was unheard of, or so rare it really wasn't heard of for the longest time. Not anymore. And as we know, type 2 is pretty common. It's common amongst people who have it genetically predisposed to them. It's common amongst people who struggle with hormonal imbalances like the ones we do with PCOS, Hashimoto's. The insulin resistance that comes with that can very easily lead into type 2. And the difference is type 1 doesn't make any insulin at all, which is what's necessary to, convert their carbs, keep their blood sugar in check, a whole hell of a lot of things. And type 2 produces some, but not enough. So that is a huge part of why I do what I do, I then had about, oh my God, I'm writing this down. I really got into it. I had the following 13 ailments and illnesses after diagnosed with type 1 at 7, including PCOS and Hashimoto's I think I was like 12. Got my period when I was 9. Had it horrible since day 1. Yeah, it was pretty much a shoo-in. My testosterone was really high. My TSH was awful. I had antibodies. My blood work was a done deal. I deal with so many clients who it pisses me off, deal with really, really long-term, processes of trying to get diagnosed. But for me, I was the doctor's favorite patient that day. It was just a shoo-in, easy case. So here's the thing. My health used to be absolutely horrendous. Being diagnosed that young, being unknowingly neurodivergent, the amount of structure and strategy that has to go into your life to maintain it as a type 1 diabetic is just out of control. It's just not something I could wrap my brain around, so my A1C, like I said earlier, 16, just crazy. Literally, I had doctors tell me, like, you continue, not for very long from now, you will lose your vision. You will lose fingers. You'll lose limbs. You'll lose, it's horrible, absolutely horrible, mass neuropathy, which is just terrible. So, and all these things. And they all tried to drill it into me and scare me with it, but I was like a young, defiant, traumatized teenager, right? So, I just hated myself. I don't know what term to use that's not like, I don't know. I was a big girl. I was a big girl in class for the longest time, and then I would fluctuate. I had very unhealthy ways of trying to lose weight that like caused weight loss initially, and I would just go up and down probably. I don't know. I had a fear of the scale at that point, oddly enough. Later became obsessed with it. But at that point, I was probably going up and down, probably like 2 to 4 sizes regularly. And I didn't care. I just wanted to be thin. It continued. I went to weight loss doctors. I tried everything. Forget trying to think about my other illnesses that followed, right? I had rheumatoid arthritis, just a shit show. I became an autoimmune shit show for a very long time, right? I was someone who prioritized myself last. among all of these health issues. My health was last priority with all of the other things I was dealing with. One, I was mad at my body. I was just pissed off. Like, why are you like this? Like, why did I get stuck with all this? You know, my friend Sally can have a pizza to the face, and I have to sit here and think about at that moment, how many carbs are in this slice of pizza? Like, I have to take insulin for it. You know, I have to see what, you know, being afraid to gain weight all the time. And I see people just not to say that people don't have their own struggles if they don't have weight issues. I think everybody struggles. This isn't the fucking struggle Olympics, right? It's not a competition. But I was pissed off because I just was like, is anything going to be easy on me? Why are you doing this to me, body? You know, I don't know if anyone can relate to that. Put a 1 in the chat. Like, why are you like, why do I have to have these illnesses? Friggin' annoying. 2, I didn't know what to do and where to start. I would spend all this time researching. I would plan some big healthy lifestyle, like I said before, I was going to take on. And I would end up doing it for a little bit, being all in and falling off. Or I would just never start after staying up until 3 a.m. researching and devising this whole plan. So I needed that realistic strategy, like I was saying. I said all this shit already. I jumped the gun on my notes, guys. Tisk. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where I fell off of my notes because I said it already, but I think what's most important is I don't want anybody here to ever experience what diabetes feels like if you have the opportunity not to feel that. I never got that option. I was 7-year-old with autoimmune diabetes, right? Poof, it just happened. So I've become extremely passionate about not letting people go down that path due to other illnesses now, later on in life. I don't want people to feel like they don't know, they can't be relied upon. I don't want people to feel like they're anything less than driven and efficient, which I know is hard to feel when you have ADHD. And I know people, you know, whoever's watching this, I know many of you have experienced this struggle. I experienced fertility battles for a damn near a decade, right? And I don't want people to have to experience that and not know what the hell to do to at least try to take care of themselves at the end of the day. I don't want that to be something overwhelming for anyone. So I'm going to share with you guys the hacks that I have, right? I'm going to give you guys 3 different types of hacks, and then we're going to do Q&A after. All right, so I'm going to ask you to get out, if you don't already, get your notes app open. Get a piece of paper and a pen or something. I want you guys to take notes. Okay. And I'm going to explain everything I did, you know, how I worked through these issues. And at the end, I'm not just going to throw you this information and be like, good luck, Godspeed, go crush it. Right. At the end, I'm going to give you an opportunity to see if you need further support. Okay. And we'll do a little Q&A. So let's get into it. Number 1, who can relate to this bad boy? Remembering to eat if you do not eat enough. If you're someone who does not eat, or you eat all your meals at night, you don't eat during the day, throw a 1 in the chat if this is you. It's hard to remember to eat during the day, or you hate that you have to stop and then eat everything at night. So hormone balance relies a lot. Again, we were told eat less, move more, blah, blah, blah. If that worked, we wouldn't all be sitting here, right? So hormone balance also relies a lot on us fueling our body enough, giving enough energy to our body, being able to eat enough, not continuing to stress our body and put it through issues that, you know, without any kind of backup source. So it relies on adrenaline. We don't want to do that. We don't want to rely on coffee, which is basically cortisol to our body, or adrenaline, which is our body's fight or flight response, because it feels like if it doesn't get you out of this situation you're in, you're going to die because you don't have any calories in your system. We don't want that. That's not helping anyone, right? So Imagine your body is, or this is a cute analogy. Okay. Imagine your body is a factory and it's open all day long. It's running. It's got staff there that have to get paid. The lights are on, all of that. It's on all day, but it only gets its orders in a 2-hour window in the evening. How long you think that factory is going to last? This shit's going to fall apart, right? That's the worst way to run a factory I have ever heard. So if we're not eating all day, I know this is probably like not news to anyone, but if you ever need help like thinking of an analogy when it's during the day and you're like, do I really need to stop and eat? Yes. Yes. Okay. Because your factory is going to close down. Nobody wants that. Okay. So first thing, train it by having easy enough food around. You have to stop making plans for the ideal food that you should be eating. And I know this is scary because you might think, well, I need to know the right things to eat. Those of you who have been with me in CCA, you know that we do baby steps, right? And the first baby step to build off of is to be eating throughout the day, the habit of eating throughout the day. You can worry about the what after, once you have that foundation of being able to eat enough throughout the day. Here comes another analogy, right? So imagine I said this like so many times this week, and I love it. But imagine you're a sculptor and you get a whole block, right? Block of marble or whatever to carve. Are you going to go in and carve out an arm and then put every detail into the nails and the hand and the arm, the elbow, everything before you touch the rest of the block? Or are you first going to chisel out like the basic parts of the sculpture, the head, the arms, the torso, the legs, and then the basic rough of it is done, then you're going to go in and you're going to chisel out the detail of each piece and build off of that. That's how you want to attack this shit show of hormone balance when you have ADHD. You want to think about yourself as you have to rough out the harder parts, the bigger parts, the most important parts. Rough those out, and then you go in and you tweak the details. So first you need to focus on just having some food around you that you can shove down your gullet throughout the day, and that's it. And it sounds like great health advice. Honestly, this might not be the advice you're going to hear from someone who's a nutritionist or someone else you see online. This is what worked for me. So I know if it seems weird, just think about it as I approach this like we're just going to try to do what's easy for the brain. That's how I figured this out. And the way I want you to think about it, if you find something that's like ready to go, ready made, right? You have it in front of you. So you literally do not have to stop what you have to get up and go get it. If you can't have it right in front of you, let's say with the job that you have, at least have it like ready to go where you can grab it out of a staff fridge and shove it down your throat and get back to work, right? You want low commitment because you would rather not even be eating right now. So you just want to think of something that's easy, palatable, get it down and get back to what you were doing because this trains your body to start to get used to accepting food at those times. Right? Your body it starts to listen to you. And if it's not getting food during those times, it's not going to make you hungry. It's not going to put the effort into making you hungry because that's all hormone related. If you get hungry or not. So your body's like, there's no point. She ain't even gonna eat. And it doesn't happen. But if you start giving it food throughout the day, it will start to learn to accept food throughout the day. It will start to process that food. And guess what you're not going to do at night? Get your whole days of orders in within a 2-hour window at night. So it's not like you're eating everything you eat at night and now you're eating during the day. You're flip-flopping it, right? And then you can build. Next part of the sculpting, once you are used to eating throughout the day, then you can change up and elaborate more on what it is. But you want to think of the easiest possible thing you can eat to just get it down your gullet and keep going. That's step one. To do this, for me, I need, in case you haven't realized, I need an analogy. I need a gamified version. I need something that makes it memorable. And so I love to think of this as collecting tokens. Like a lot of my clients have heard me talk about this before. You want to think of it as like a game that you're in. And you want to think about it as you're going through this game and you are collecting tokens. Oh, there's some food down the gullet, took a bite. Token collected. I take a bite here, I take a bite there, I have some of this, I have some of that. I pick at the stuff at my desk, whatever it is, each time you're going to eat, that's you collecting a token. So you're taking away the pressure of I need to eat food. What's the best food when you're busy during the day or you want to focus on anything else or whatever, you're just forgetting to eat. You want to think about it as collecting tokens. Take the pressure away. Step 1. Make sure you're writing this down, write down any questions you have for me about this or anything you want me to elaborate on. If I don't cover it, ask me during our Q&A, okay? Those of you who are taking notes. So think of food as tokens, super easy, grab and go, keep it right in front of you. Eliminate any obstacle at all. Eliminate your brain having to remember to do it, or I'll do it later. Try to get around the booby traps that your ADHD brain sets up for you. Hack number 2, dopamine hunting. Throw a 1 in the chat if this relates to you. Imagine you are bored and everybody hears boredom eating, right? Boredom eating is not because you're just such a cow you can't stop, right? Like I used to think of myself. I used to be like, can't you control yourself? You get bored and you just sit. There's nothing more gross to me than like someone who just mindlessly snacked, because diet culture made me hate that version of myself, right? It's a hunk of shit. You're looking for dopamine. You're bored. When you're bored and you have ADHD, you become sensory seeking, you become dopamine seeking, right? You want some kind of satisfaction, or you want you want to occupy your hands, the hand to mouth of eating. It's the same mechanism that a lot of people struggle with smoking, with vaping. I don't know if anyone in here can relate to that. Even with drinking, holding a glass and then drinking, right? The idea of having the taste of that as your unwind time. This is all dopamine seeking behavior. Same thing with food. Did you know you can seek out crunch for a dopamine boost or certain flavors? It's not always, binges. There are so many ways to have a binge. And when I put this question up in my stories a couple days ago, a lot of people were mentioning that this was causing binging. And that could be true too. There could be an emotional component to binging, but I think it also has to do with that dopamine seeking behavior where you want to either keep, have the crunch or the temperature, those who like to drink something or eat something hot or cold, or some people who like a texture like crunchy, right? This makes it really hard when you have PCOS and Hashimoto's. You have a higher likelihood of, like I said earlier, having insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, all of that under that same little ribbon, right? And that causes sweet cravings. And then you're used to, right, you need to dopamine seek. So it's not even like, sometimes at least for me, it was like a get out of my way. I need chocolate, but a lot of times it was just I felt like it was the only thing that would help me relax for the night. It was the only thing. It was like what I needed, right? And that's the cravings, the urgent cravings that insulin resistance can cause. That makes it hard too, because that's how you get your dopamine fix. You might feel like shit after, but it's not just you. You're working against hormones and chemicals here, right? It's not just discipline, which is like the bane of our existence with ADHD to boot, on its own. So I think it becomes important then to, if you have the dopamine seeking habit, oh my God, I can't talk, habit with ADHD, you want to find alternatives. This is the key. Find alternatives that speak to the itch and scratch that itch, right? But also allow yourself to have the real thing. It's important not to remove the ability to have the thing you want. The minute that you make it about it being bad or good to have certain foods is the minute you're setting yourself up for sabotage. Because then you're beating yourself up, you're building up this forbidden friggin' fruit, You're having, speaking of forbidden fruit, let's talk about that, right? You want a brownie. So instead you have an apple, you have some peanut butter, you know, you have this, you have that, you have this, you have that, and then you have the brownie, right? Versus just cutting to the chase and having the brownie. The problem is we don't trust ourselves to, if we say to ourselves, I'm allowed to have that, we think we're going to be held up at Krispy Kreme all day long. But like, is that really going to happen? If that happened for a week because you were throwing a party that you were finally able to have the foods you wanted, how long would that last before that thing wasn't that special anymore? You could have it at any time. Why are you posted up at Krispy Kreme? What's the problem? Have it next week if you want. Have it tomorrow if you want. It removes the power of it, right? So it is important, you know, I think that's where we're caught in between, right? Because we have these illnesses that literally need us to change the way we're eating. But in strictly trying to follow that, we screw ourselves and sabotage ourselves because we want what we can't have, or we feel bad because it's there, or it's convenient, or we have a craving, and then we're building this whole thing up. We don't even give alternatives a lot of times, like, which I'll give you a couple alternatives. We don't even give it a second look because we already feel like failures. And that thing seems awful, and this thing seems amazing. And just one more time, and all this stuff. When if you just let yourself freaking have the thing, you're not going to cause all that much damage, and you have this like laissez-faire attitude about eating it, it loses that specialness. And now you can have a balance of a lot of times picking the things that maybe don't drive your blood sugars crazy, and sometimes having the thing that maybe you don't feel so hot after, but you'll get over it and move on, and life goes on. It does not have to be black or white, and I would argue that forcing someone with ADHD into black or white is a surefire recipe for failure. It's not about discipline. It's really not. It's a waste of time to hunt that down for ourselves. It's no fun either. Why is it such a problem to have fun? You know? So some alternatives that don't suck, in my opinion. And I have plenty, right? So these are just the ones I want to spout off tonight, right? But prosciutto chips. I love me some prosciutto chips. If you're a crunchy, like especially for those of you who love chips, you love the thin, salty chips, take some prosciutto and put it in the air fryer, or lay it on parchment, put it in the oven, and bake it at a low temp, like 250. Bake it until it's crispy, or air fry it till it's crispy. Delicious, salty, really thin. Like, you know how some like low carb crunchy stuff isn't like crispy crunchy? It's like thick crunchy, and it's not exactly what you want. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but like it has that thinness that like, you know, a chip has, a potato chip. Nothing beats actual potato chips, but this helps, and it's all protein, which is great. Roasted edamame. It's another one for the crunch fans. You can buy it already roasted. I have literally never roasted my own edamame. You can if you want. I just don't know how to tell you to do that because I could not be bothered. Get it on Amazon, get it at the grocery store. They're salty. It's like similar, in my opinion, it reminds me, if you like, what is it, like corn nuts in the bag? They have kind of a similar satisfactory level to me. Some people hate them, but I love them. And there's like 22 grams of protein in a cup of them. So you can just pop them in a sandwich bag, keep them at your desk, and they're fantastic, in my opinion. Pepperoni chips. Put pepperoni in the air fryer, same as the prosciutto, same idea. I love making that and then making some kind of like a pizza dip. I have a couple recipes for different ones. And then using the pepperoni chips. So much fun. Roasted chickpeas. Those are easy, you just season them. I'm going to give you guys the goods here. My seasoning trifecta, I put this shit on everything. You can ask my clients. I talk about this all the time. You do sesame oil, which is really anti-inflammatory as well. You do a little bit of olive oil, also anti-inflammatory. It's like, you know, my Greek people, we put olive oil on everything, right? So sesame oil, olive oil, soy sauce. And lastly, garlic salt. I love garlic salt. If it's too much sodium for you, you can just do garlic powder and control the salt yourself. Garlic salt just does something for me. I don't know. I put it on a lot of what I eat. I love it. So you mix your chickpeas. That's the trifecta. The olive oil, I mean, you're trifecta, there's four things. The olive oil is just like a given. It's just something so that you can bake it and it not be dry, in my opinion. So I really focus on the sesame oil, the soy sauce, the garlic salt. That's what's no matter what on everything. Season up your chickpeas with that, put them on a baking sheet with some parchment and put them in the oven and just cook them. You can, whatever, 350, 400, there's no real science to it. Just cook them till they're crispy. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. Sugar-free desserts or candies, either homemade or store-bought. I'm gonna be real with you guys. Some of the alternatives out there are not the most pleasant on the stomach. Who here knows what I mean? Put a 1 in the chat if you have personally found out that some sugar-free products just don't agree with us. with the whole, oh my God, the bubble guts, the explosion, it's not great, you know? Or sometimes you have something where you learn real quick, you can only have one in a day. Yeah, nobody wants that. So, but here's the thing. To find the stuff that does agree with you, you might hit a landmine, right? Unfortunately. So finding one that does right by you is really important, in my opinion. I laugh and I'm like, listen, some programs, their hard is like you have to live on an elliptical and eat kale and chicken every day, right? The hard here is find a sugar-free treat that you like that doesn't, give you the farts. Maybe not, don't do this soul searching for your ideal dessert if you have a big meeting the next day. I don't know. I mean, if you work virtually, maybe it's okay, right? There's a mute button, but if you don't have a mute button in person, maybe don't have that be the day you're testing out the sugar-free goodies. But this is just what I was telling myself, is I want to find stuff that, let's say I'm having a high blood sugar day, or, I know that I'm just not going to feel right. I've eaten throughout the day. And if at the end of the night, I have something that has too much sugar, I'm not going to really get the best sleep or whatever it is. I like having the option, and that's balance, right? The idea that I can just eat as much of it as I want, really important to me. I don't like portion control. I don't believe in it. We can trust ourselves not to devour an entire thing once we start trusting ourselves to not devour an entire thing. Okay. So I've been personally victimized by sugar-free candy. Rough stuff sometimes. There's a lot of fiber in there, and some weird sugar-free alternatives. So, okay, let's see. Oh, my favorite website, by the way, for sugar-free, whatever, low carb, whatever you're searching for your hormonal balance alternatives, nettrition.com. My clients have heard this for ages now. Nettrition.com. You can use my discount code if you want. I am historically bad at giving it to people. I think it's Mish10. I'm pretty sure. MICH 10. If you want 10% off, it's nettrition.com. Use it or not. I don't care. We're all lucky I even remembered to tell you, if I'm being honest. So, hack number 3. Food ick. Who relates to this one? Food ick. You cycle between foods that you absolutely adore, and then all of a sudden you can't stand it anymore. You don't know what happens. The texture's different one day. It's slightly off with flavor, and you don't even want to look at it. You're like, get this slop out of my face. I'm currently having a hard time coming to that with oatmeal, which was after giving birth. I had actually never had oatmeal, actual oatmeal before. I had the packets, the bullshit packets, but I never had real cooked oatmeal. And then I did, because it's supposed to help with your milk supply. And I actually I just loved it. It was my breakfast. I'd have it sometimes at night too if I was hungry. And now there was one day that it just didn't have the same texture. And Nick makes it for me. He's a doll. And he's like, I've done nothing different. I'm like, it's not you. It's me. I don't doubt that you have not changed anything about this recipe. It's that my brain told me it's different. And now it's on its way out, unfortunately. Right? So this goes to making it really hard, texturally, flavor-wise. Maybe just, it's not that you love something and then get the ick. Maybe you just get the ick. Maybe you just had a bad experience with it, or the texture rubs you the wrong way and you get overwhelmed and you're like, I don't want to eat anything. Maybe you just don't want to eat anything, right? You're just grossed out by the idea of chewing at that moment. Long-term food ick is pudding and milk. I love some pudding, let me tell you. Flan, panna cotta, pudding, give it all to me. But I know a lot of people who texturally absolutely hate it. And that's on spicy brains. So, okay, so my tips for this, my hacks for this. Remember to focus on flavors and textures that in that moment, don't think of the thing, think of the flavors and textures that you're into or it seem palatable. Citrusy and crispy, right? Cold and refreshing or warm and comforting. Try to break down what seems palatable and then work from there. Then think, what do I have access to? How can I make it those things? How can I flavor it that way? How can I cook it in a way that suits that texture? Don't try to think of the food item itself. Think of the flavors and the textures that are good to you in that moment. That's one. Number two, be okay with switching. Don't hold yourself so strictly. Like, don't get so pissed off at yourself if you do love something for a little bit of time and then all of a sudden it falls off and you don't. It's okay. You'll cycle back or you'll find something else, and no one's mad at you for not liking that thing anymore. I think a lot of us fear someone, judging us. Even if there is no person, it's just like some omniscient being that we're like, well, I can't not like the same thing forever and ever and ever. That would be bad. I would look like a fool. What? Like what you like and don't like what you don't like, You'll find your way. And that's like with the allowing yourself to have the real thing, having that thought of balance where it's like, what are you going to do? It's annoying, but it'll come back at some point or not, and I'll eat something else. You end up not having as much of a problem because you're not like, damn it, why brain? Well, we know why. Our brains are different. So no need to yell at ourselves. Right? So find something else, that fits. Allow yourself to be flexible. No food rules. That's the biggest thing that I hope you take away with this. There are no rules, period. No one's sitting here with a card judging how diligent you are, how on the ball you are, how strict you are, how you never deviate from the path. No one gives a shit. Results can be had a million different ways. So you got to find what you like, what works for you. So those are the biggest hacks that I got for you when it comes to ADHD, making it a muck in terms of how you eat to help your PCOS, your Hashimoto's, how you overall live and look at things. Be freaking kind to yourself. Be flexible. Be willing to look at struggles as data. We're great problem solvers. Don't try to solve your problem as someone who doesn't have ADHD. Try to solve your problem as you, right? That's the big story for today. That's the biggest hack of all. Don't screw yourself. Okay, so I told you at the beginning of the call, the workshop, I wasn't going to just like leave you hanging, right? So we're going to do Q&A for a moment, but I wanted to offer you guys on this Zoom something. I have set aside some time in my schedule next week to do individual planning sessions and audits with you guys, only from those who tuned in live tonight, right? I want to do a planning session with you. So what we're going to do is we're going to overall look at what's going on, where the problems might be. We're going to audit that, look at that entire thing, figure out where the holes are, right? Then we're going to try to goal plan. Those of you who are in CCA, we'll do this on your regular call, but those of you who are not, I wanted to open up my calendar for a few of you to be able to not just leave everything here. You're going to hear this Zoom and abracadabra, everything's going to be good. I hope it's helpful, but I want to take that time with you and really make sure that it goes farther than that. I'm really passionate about this. So I obviously don't have an unlimited amount of space for this. So right now, if you want to reserve your spot to do that call with me, it's gratis, it's free. I just really wanted to give you some support. Go on my Instagram, Grow with the Fake Red Hair, and send me a DM right now, or go on my Facebook and send me a personal message right now. Send me just CCA, the word CCA, and then we will figure out a time to get you in, and I will help hopefully extend the support from this call. All right, so let's go to Q&A. I'm gonna turn off the recording for this part because I wanna respect the people who've tuned in live.